Good morning, everyone. This is the second meeting of the Budget Committee. The City of London is situated on the traditional lands of the Nashbek, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Attawandaron. We honor and respect the history, language, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. The City of London is currently home to many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit today. As representatives of the people of the City of London, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. For everyone's information, Councillors Hillier and Van Merbergen are with us virtually. All other members of committee are in chambers. The City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for meetings upon request. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact 519-661-2489, extension 2425. I am looking to members of the committee for disclosures of pecuniary interest. Seeing none online or in chambers. Consent items, we have two. Looking to see if we can move these together, if you would like them dealt with separate. I see no one asking to be moved separately, so looking for mover for 2.1 and 2.2, moved by Councillor Ferrer, seconded by Councillor Frank. As the budget chair, I just want to thank the Upper Thames for having us. All our engagement with our ABCs, as you see in item 2.2, have now been concluded. So this is the first letter to come back, and you will see more letters of response coming from the other agency boards and commissions as we move through the budget process, including at the next meeting. Looking to committee members for comments for 2.1 and 2.2. I'm seeing no one online. I'm going to start in chambers with Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a quick comment on 2.1, which was receiving a letter from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. I want to thank you and the Mayor for attending our board meeting and having that discussion with the board. I also understand that the Chair has also sent a letter, and just as a reminder to Council or to committee here, Upper Thames is supported by 17 municipalities, and there is a review on the value assessment that we're still waiting for regarding member municipalities. So that is something we're still needing to understand. I also want to thank you for the City of London for the advocacy in supporting conservation authorities when it comes to the freeze on our planning fees. I know the conservation, other conservation authorities are getting together to advocate and to allow that freeze to be removed, and really want to thank the City of London for their support on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll also note, personally, I find it a little bit different appearing between boards where my colleagues sit, but we're not colleagues in that situation. So thank you for receiving us so welcomely. A question to staff on this, as Councillor Hopkins noted, that this letter highlights advocacy requests that they have of the city when the opportunities arise. I suspect that other agency boards and commissions will also highlight advocacy opportunities. Will government relations be made aware of this, or do we need to do a separate thing to forward it? Just making sure, as people are counting on us and looking to us.
Thank you, through you, Chair. We will certainly be watching this and intending to add this to the issues that we identify through a government relations piece, as well as the work that the Mayor and others do in this regard as well.
Thank you. Looking for further comments online or in chambers. Okay, Councillor Stevenson, please proceed.
Thank you. Mine's on 2.2, and I was wondering if someone could share what the organizations, what tools they gained from the service review training, and how they've been able to apply them. Have we heard any feedback in terms of what particular tools were beneficial?
Okay, thank you. To our finance team.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So the service review training covered a number of different tools, specifically the tools that the city already uses. So those tools would include elements such as zero-based budgeting, zero-based reviews. They would include program reviews, asset reviews, organizational reviews, deep dive service reviews on particular programs or services, as well as Lean Six Sigma and continuous improvement as well. So it was a pretty far-reaching overview of the various tools that was provided to the agencies, boards, and commissions. That training happened back in December, so I think it's still fairly early days in terms of the organizations working through and applying those tools on their respective budgets and their respective organizations. So I have not received any tangible updates at this point, but I do understand that many of them are making use of those tools that they received training on back in December. Thank you.
Councillor.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up, I was wondering, maybe even just initially, is there some excitement or something that is being shared that they learned something new? And for the public, when we say reviews of all these things, do you mind just sharing like what kind of things are being looked for so that the public understands a little bit better what these reviews entail?
Thank you. To the finance team.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So zero-based reviews are effectively more of a budgetary activity in the sense of basically rebuilding a budget from the ground up, basically. So in the sense of starting from scratch and building up what is required from budgetary resource perspective in order to deliver the programs or services that are being delivered. That is scalable, so it can be done at a very kind of low level in terms of at a specific budgetary line or account level, all the way up to and including kind of on a full organization. Although the larger you go, and obviously the more you bite off, the I guess more time consuming that process would be. So that is zero-based reviews. Asset reviews are exactly as they sound, in the sense that it's looking at the assets of a particular organization and assessing whether the current ownership model of those assets, or the current way they're being used to deliver services, is most optimal. Organizational reviews tends to focus on the organizational structure of that organization, and looking at how it's structured, how it's aligned, reporting relationships, opportunities for example, shared services and that type of thing. So that is generally the focus of organizational reviews. Program reviews are exactly as the name would suggest. It's specifically looking at the programs or services that an organization delivers, and whether those are meeting the needs of the community, whether the resources that are aligned with those programs or services are appropriate, given the services and programs being delivered currently. What have I missed? Continuous improvement, Lean Six Sigma, is really about identifying opportunities for waste in processes, and how that can be eliminated, and allowing processes to be streamlined to eliminate any kind of non-value added within those processes. So it's really at a very granular process level, and typically very focused on particular activities that are then aimed to kind of streamline and eliminate any non-value added from those processes. So at a high level, that is kind of generally what the tools are. I think what we can say is that some of those tools were new to some of those organizations that went through the training. Not all of them were familiar with those tools. And I think they're, at least coming out of the training in December, there was excitement around, getting the opportunity to apply some of those tools that they had not previously known about or applied to their organizations. Thank you.
Counselor?
Thank you. I appreciate that information. There was an investment made in that day-long training, and I'd be very interested at the end of this to hear about the tangible benefits that were created, because if it really was a great thing, it might be worth looking at doing every 4 years, knowing that the boards turn over, unlike what is here. So look forward to hearing more about that in the fall.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from committee members on items 2.1 and 2.2? Inherently looked at Mr. Wallace. He's good up there. We're good. Calling the question.
Closing the vote, motion carries 14-0.
Thank you. Concludes our consent items. We have no scheduled items. Items for direction 4.1. I'll note in the added agenda there is a communication from Mr. Butler. So for the 2026 annual budget update, staff does have a brief overview for us, and then we'll go through some process questions before I look for a mover and a seconder, as there will need to be at least two minor changes of wording in the motion that was provided. Ms. Barbone.
Thank you. Through Madam Budget Chair. Basically, just to give you a bit of a sense in terms of at our last meeting in March, we had presented the original budget overview and update, and had identified at that point in time that we would be looking to bring forward at the May meeting a list of preliminary options that would look at achieving the permanent tax levy reductions through the 2026 budget. So through this report, we are essentially bringing back two recommendations to looking at reducing the tax levy. The first one on recommendation B is the work that Civic Administration has completed to do through our service review exercise. And to date, based on the preliminary work that has been completed, that we've identified approximately $6 million that we would be able to include as a business case to bring forward in the mayor's budget later this year. Recommendation B basically just allows us to continue doing that work, and as we continue refining it and looking for additional opportunities and creating those business cases to move forward. Recommendation C is with respect to revenue changes that we've identified. And included in Appendix A is some additional revenue generation opportunities that we believe would be prudent for council to consider for recreation and sport user fees. So recommendation C is looking for direction to proceed with bringing those forward and doing the work to look at those amendments to bring forward. When we get to recommendation B, we have identified further options that we wish to seek council direction on in terms of bringing forward they've been identified in Appendix B and C of this report, and they relate to program reductions and/or eliminations. So through this report, what we are seeking is preliminary direction on whether council wishes to receive a business case as part of the 2026 budget update. So to be very clear, today's report isn't looking to debate the items that are on there. That will be done through the budget process if council wishes to proceed. The debate today is around whether you wish us to do the work to go forward and develop those business cases to submit as part of the budget and as the mayor's consideration as he brings forward the mayor's budget at the end of October. So there are a number of options on the list for council's consideration that if you wish us to pursue them, then we're looking for that direction. But if there are items, and the way we've worded the draft preliminary recommendation is tell us which items you don't want us to do, assuming there are a number of them that you wish us to proceed. That may be the simplest method in terms of being able to proceed and focus on. If council does not have an appetite to want to look at a potential reduction or elimination, please tell us now, because that way civic administration won't spend the time developing that business case, refining the additional information that we need to be able to create the business case so that we can spend time on the items that you do wish us to proceed and to ensure that we can spend our time wisely on the more pressing priorities of council. So I think that really in a nutshell is we have two recommendations for your consideration, and then the third is for you to provide us direction on what items you don't wish us to pursue any further through the development of a business case. So the intent is that through the business case and through the budget process, you will have the information then through the budget process to not only have the public input and engagement through our budget engagements and workshops that we do, and as well as through the public participation meeting. That's where you'll have plenty of time to give the signal to the public what things will be coming forward and the opportunity for staff to then go forward and do the work that will be needed to develop what those options are. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll look to committee first to see if there's any questions in regards to the $6 million overview of the things before we get into it. I'll also note in eScribe, there was a wording change in B and C. The word budget amendment has been changed to business case, realizing there's no current budget to amend. So that was the only administrative change made from the potential motions that you had in advance versus today. Councillor Ferreira.
Thanks, Chair. And thanks for the update from the city treasurer. Just going through the report, I did notice, and I know it just kind of leaves our options open, but we don't have the monies that we put into the operating budget contingency reserve for the surplus part into this report. I do know that we don't necessarily have, or as it was discussed at committee, that could be where those monies go will be kind of up for debate at the budget update. But I do see that is going to be a factor here with some of the stuff as we debate. I know we're not supposed to be debating it right now, but I did want to kind of just clarify some things. So that the monies that we put aside into the operating budget contingency reserve, that's about 16.9 million, I think it was, or 16.6, and that's divided over the 2 years, so it's really like 8.45-ish per year. And then we do have the $6 million identified, preliminary money that was identified, and that's only for this upcoming year. Is that's correct, as I kind of understood that? Okay, so as we get to that point, we have the total 13.1 million reduction from civic admin and the ABCs. Civic admin has potentially found 6 million identified for this upcoming year, and we potentially have 8.45 million for this upcoming year as well. So I just wanted to confirm those those facts.
Thank you, and to staff, I know there were some nods along the way, just but for the colleagues online too, just verbal recap.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So that is correct. The $6 million of savings, again, that's preliminary. That is what we've identified at this point. That work continues. We are not finished by any stretch of the imagination. So at least at this point, though, it is $6 million for 2026. Your figures are also correct on the recent direction from council in relation to the 2024 year-end surplus. 16.9 million was set aside in the operating budget contingency reserve. So across 2 years, that's approximately $8.5 million per year. What I will note, though, and my understanding, it is the mayor's intention that that 16.9 million split over 2 years is supplemental or in addition to the direction to reduce below 5%. So in other words, it would not be counted towards the 13 million required or directed reduction for 2026.
Counselor?
Thank you for that. Okay, so I do see we're trying to maybe get below that threshold from the mayor's direction. I guess my main question then would be, we are discussing potential reductions or eliminations as per Appendix B and C. But that is just for you to do the work on that, as you said. So at the budget update, we can actually have those discussions. So there could be the potential, depending on how everything lands and how the operating or the surplus money, when that comes to debate, there could be the potential for some votes here for a potential elimination or reduction may not go that way, and we may continue that program depending on the monies that we have and how things are discussed, I guess, at that point at the budget update. So that's kind of how I understand it. So I just wanted to clarify that just before we move forward. So, okay.
Yeah, that would be correct. No decisions are being made here today. The votes are just strictly if you want a business case made to be brought forward for consideration come the fall. But if we're not interested at this point, staff would appreciate not doing a business case just for fun. Okay. So like I said, still taking procedural questions, and then we'll get into how to handle those optional cases. I'll outline that next. Councillor Frank?
Thank you. Yes, I was just going to ask to split them, so it sounds like we'll be doing that shortly.
Yep. Okay, Councillor Pribble?
Thank you, Through the Chair. Question to the staff, and I just want to clarify the identified $6 million, because in the report it does state that it has been preliminary identified yearly, and then there was a comment made by Mr. Murray that for 2026. So I just want to clarify that these are ongoing savings. That I understand that 6 million might be 5.565. I understand that, but this is ongoing savings, not just for 1 year.
To staff?
Thank you, through the chair, and thank you for that question. Yes, it's important to clarify that yes, in fact, when we're referring to the $6 million at this point roughly that we've identified, yes, those are in fact permanent reductions. They start in 2026. So just to clarify and be completely clear, that is correct, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. No more questions at this time.
Councillor Stevenson?
Thank you. And just for clarification, in terms of this budget committee and our next meeting in June, we're looking at bringing forward budget cases for 2026. Are we also still doing the work of the SORG committee and bringing forward savings, potential savings that might be for future years? And is there a way that when we're making submissions for the June meeting, we know how to delineate that?
Thank you. The mandate of this committee has also encompassed SWORG now. It's absorbed it. As we move through it, councillors can bring their ideas forward. Mr. Murray, if you want to outline the easiest process for that, realizing there's a June meeting, but there's also meetings after that, and also highlight ideally the timelines that the mayor's working on too as we ramp up to the October deadline.
Thank you, and through you. So absolutely, there is the opportunity to bring forward ideas that any councillors may have at either the June 11th meeting or future budget committee meetings. Depending on the idea and the background work and analysis that will then be required. I mean, there may be, you know, some runway that's required in order to turn around that analysis, and, you know, it may not even be possible for those particular ideas to impact the 2026 budget. So it's entirely possible that some of them, you know, may not be things that we may benefit from a budgetary perspective until 2027, for example, at the earliest. So having said that, though, certainly if councillors have ideas that they're contemplating, encourage those to be submitted to any meeting of the budget committee, and that will allow us to then get to work on those and start assessing what the potential opportunities are and when they might be potentially realized. So as the councillor has noted, there is the June 11th meeting of the budget committee. That will be an opportunity for any other ideas or communications to be brought forward. Over the summer months, we will then be work on putting together the 2026 budget and actually following through on the direction that you will be providing. And the intention then would be that the budget and the business cases associated with the budget will come forward as part of the mayor's budget in October. So the mayor will, before that, obviously make some decisions on what is going to be included or excluded from his budget. Ultimately, all of the business cases that are directed to come forward will be included in the budget. As you saw last year, there will be some that were likely included in the mayor's budget. There may be some that are simply presented for council's consideration, and you may wish to add those in if the mayor has not already. But those will be all part of the budget committee discussions that will commence in October and continue through November. So I hope that answers your question.
Councillor Stevenson? Okay. Councillor Roman.
Thank you, and through you. First, thanks to staff for their work on this report. I just have a procedural question as it relates to a budget case preparation. Does a budget case need to be prepared if we, instead of looking to have this on the tax base, we were to use a reserve fund? So for instance, when I look at a couple of the items on the list that are in front of us, I'll just give you an example. There's the reduction of repairs on local roads. There's the streetlight program, which in my mind, when you're adding streetlights, you're increasing road safety. We have a reserve fund that's sitting at $7.7 million for road safety under automated enforcement, which also says other road safety projects. Could we ultimately decide to use a reserve fund instead of using the tax levy increase, and therefore do we need a business case to move it from tax levy to reserve fund? And I have another example of that.
Mr. Murray.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So ideally, in the interest of transparency, everything would be supported by a business case of that nature. Certainly that provides the opportunity to elaborate on what the implications of any such action could mean. So I would suggest that in an ideal world, even though that you know there may be a continuation of the program, but a change in funding source, I think you know ultimately the opportunity to elaborate on that is ideal in a business case. In that case as well, you're also still impacting the net tax levy. So you would be, just for example, in the case of the local improvement program that you referenced, Councillor, you would be potentially taking some of the costs off the tax levy, so reducing the tax levy and instead funding them potentially through a reserve fund. That would have tax levy implications that should be reflected in a budget business case.
Okay, so it's just business case. Councillor.
Thank you, that's very helpful. And just to clarify, how do we ensure that the specificity of, let's say, you know, the recycling and compost program, which is a pilot project, fits with the dollars that are in the SEEP reserve fund that are outlined for pilot projects? Like, how do we make sure that those things are a one-for-one exchange on a reserve fund, where the language is, in my opinion, a little bit challenging just based on the definition? Is that something that committee would decide, staff would provide in the business case commentary on whether or not it fits within a reserve fund?
Mr. Murray.
Thank you, through the chair. So yes, that would absolutely be something that would be potentially addressed or commented on in a business case. Certainly, if there are specific ideas that you might have in terms of things that you'd like us to look at of that nature, we would appreciate that specific direction and be able to take that away and assess whether it's feasible, whether it's a fit with that particular reserve fund, whether there's sufficient balance in the reserve fund, noting again, of course, that reserve funds are one-time dollars, and we need to be very, very cautious about using those for one-time or for ongoing costs, excuse me. So certainly we would look at that as all part and parcel of developing a business case.
Okay, Counselor. Okay. Seeing no immediate hands online or in chambers. Procedurally, my advice to committee would be for a mover and a seconder for A through D. D would inherently move all the cases, as Ms. Barbone had said. Having heard from Councillor Frank procedurally at that point, I've asked the clerk to prepare each item to be called individually, just for a really quick vote. You can vote yay or nay. Mr. Murray has provided via email yesterday a response to some questions he got from councillors in advance, realizing those pieces of information are high level at this time. Just procedurally, it seemed easier to move everything, call it individually, versus people trying to move stuff in and out. And we'd still do all the votes. Okay, so looking for a mover and a seconder of the recommendation of A through D, as shown in any scribe. Okay, moved by Councillor Cuddy, seconded by seconded by the mayor. Okay, so I can certainly take questions. This is your opportunities for Appendix B and C, if you have specific questions on them, noting that the mayor's direction to staff was to bring back cases that could lower the tax rate, so inherently everything was make me a business case, unless council or committee at this moment directs otherwise. I will commence my speakers list with Mayor Morgan.
Thank you. So I want to say I appreciate our staff bringing this forward, and I also appreciate colleagues understanding that we're not actually debating these items because, frankly, we don't have all of the information or components to them yet. We're deciding whether or not to proceed with getting the details, and I think there's a few examples here of why that's really important. Is because on these things with the details, there's probably a number of different ways to approach it. Whether it's, as Councillor Rahman suggested, funding something for 3 years, backstopping it with a reserve fund before the elimination of the program, or another avenue. We won't actually have those details unless we move forward with a number of the business cases. A lot of these could probably be segmented in different ways too, with the details available to us. And so there's probably more options for debate and discussion and opportunity on the table if we get the information. So from my perspective, I'm open to getting all of the information that staff have recommended on here, with the exception of one. I have no interest in Appendix B number 5, which is the one related to waiting pools. I'll tell you why. This debate's been had a few times, but the $95,000 ongoing savings for what would likely be a significant capital cost of the removal of the infrastructure, to me is not going to move the numbers in a way that I'm interested in. So, I mean, if other councillors want to get that information, they can, but I'm happy to support those who want to take that one off of staff's workload and not even get that information. That's the only one that stood out for me for one that I don't think I have a lot of intention of moving forward with, given that it's going to have a significant capital cost associated with it for a very small operating savings.
Okay, thank you. I'll note, 1, it's committee, so you can speak more than once, but I'm still timing. 2, it is absolutely appreciated if you mention appendix, whatever appendix, and then the number, because we got multiple pages and multiple appendixes, just to help us follow along with you. Next on my speakers list, I have Councillor McAllister and then Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, and through the chair, appreciate the opportunity to speak to these items. One of my concerns, the mayor already raised one of them, the aquatics, the wading pools. I believe one of those would have probably been in my ward, and I know they get a lot of use and definitely an amenity that people enjoy. Another thing on the recreational side with Appendix A, I'm just wondering maybe if I can get some more information from, I imagine maybe Ms. Smith would comment on this, but it says between 3 and 15% increase in the recreational user fees. It's a pretty large range, oops, sorry. And I'm just curious, I hear this a lot from my constituents in terms of they already feel a bit disadvantaged in terms of the fees. I do my best to try to let them know the subsidies that we have available and provide free recreational times when available. But I'm just curious what that would perhaps entail, because I think that might be a pretty big hit for some of my folks.
To staff, please.
Thank you, and through the chair, basically our cost recovery in recreation and sport for user fees is about 63.7%. So what we would be doing is looking at all of our fees. It doesn't mean, as you said, all fees would increase by 15%. We've begun a user fee benchmarking exercise where we're looking at what other local providers charge in fees, local organizations, and our peer municipalities. So you're right, we do have some fees that are pretty close to cost recovery, but we have some that aren't. So this is where we looked at that range from 3 to 15%, and there would be many different factors we would look at as part of this business case and this user fee increase. And you're correct, it's important to note we still have our City of London income-based subsidy process play your way. This assists Londoners every year. Each person, if eligible, is up to $300 a year to support them to take recreation and sports programs. We would not be impacting this program at all.
Counselor?
Thank you, and through the chair. Thank you for that answer. I'm just wondering if you can provide a bit more detail in terms of what the recreational fees entail, just so public is aware. I think I have a good understanding, but just so they would be aware of where they might see those increases.
Ms. Smith?
Sure. So we generate approximately $22 million a year in annual revenue fees, and it's approximately $13 million of that goes against the tax levy. So of our total $35 million, approximately $13 million is subsidized through the tax. As I said, one of the biggest factors for us is minimum wage. It's increased by 24% since 2019. So we are continually playing catch up on that. And we know also that it's been raised again for October 1st, 2025. So regardless of this increase, we need to look at our user fees this year because we continue to play catch up, specifically just looking at minimum wage. There are other factors that are impacting our ability to provide awesome recreation and support services to the community. Minimum wage is one of the big ones, but also looking at the safety and security of our residents and our staff at all of our facilities too. So there are some pressures, and we will be looking at our user fees as part of this review.
Counselor?
Thank you, and through the chair. Yeah, and I appreciate the pressures. I would say I appreciate also hearing that we won't be touching the subsidy, but I would be looking for, if we have substantial changes to some of these user fees, to look at trying to balance that with the subsidy. I just, speaking from my own ward's experience, I have a number of low-income families that often reach out to me. It's great that we have the subsidy program, but especially in the summer, these are some of the few programs that residents can access. So I'm particularly afraid that cutting too deep into this or raising the fees to a level where families would not necessarily be able to access our facilities. So that's a big concern for me on that. Another concern, which Councillor Rahman kind of hinted at earlier, I'm also concerned in terms of the roadway maintenance, especially when it comes to traffic safety. I'm sure Mr. McRae is kind of sick of hearing from me on a number of these items, but I do have a lot of the older neighborhoods in terms of the street light replacements, also like road repair and resurfacing. I think the older neighborhoods have a lot more issues with this kind of thing. A lot of these subdivisions were built without these things in place, so we're perpetually playing catch up. I understand the need for the cost savings, but some of these neighborhoods never had these things to begin with, so it's kind of kicking that ball even farther down the line. But I would say, to the mayor's point as well, I would like to see the aquatics portion, that closure of the 5 wading pools, removed. I'm not sure if that requires an amendment at this time, but I'd be happy to put that forward. I don't see any. I'm going to reserve the rest of my comments for later on if there's more, but I just wanted to raise those at the outset.
Thank you. As to your question, no amendments are needed because we're going to call everything separate, just to keep things pretty straightforward that we're not going to be on an amendment of the amended original motion of an amendment. So it's just going to be called individually when we get there. And when we do get there, we'll use the same mover and seconder too to help with expediency. Next on my speakers list, and Councilor McAllister, you used 3 minutes. I have Councilor Stevenson and then Councilor Frank, Councilor Trousseau, Councilor Pribble.
I'm sorry, can I just
Oh,
clarify a
yep.
question? Because it's all bundled. So for instance, Appendix B, all of those items are one. So how do
It
we
won't be.
separate it? No, we're going to separate each
Yep.
item? Okay, perfect.
I'm on it. Okay, Councilor Stevenson.
Okay, thanks. I'm not very interested in many of these, I'll be honest. I'll be listening to my colleagues, but most of these are things that I think residents value and want to keep, and increasing user fees is just not someplace I want to go right now. I would be interested in potentially moving some of them to reserve funds. That I'd be open to. So the ones that I do have questions on would be Appendix B7, Human Resources Internships. Can you just give me an idea? I don't know what what internships we do or what departments that might be impacting.
Thank you. To staff, realizing all our questions at this point still might be really high level.
Through the chair, thank you for that question. So currently we have 11 internships. We have 2 that are hosted within engineering. We have 3 that are hosted with the anti-racism, anti-oppression division, and then we have 6 availabilities within human resources itself. And what we're looking at here is we found that we didn't quite have the value in the human resources side of it, but we're still seeing value under the ARAO division and the engineering division. So we're looking at possibly considering scaling back the just the human resources internships.
Councilor Stevenson.
Thank you for that. And just to follow up, what is an internship? Like, is it a co-op or is there?
Thank you. Maybe if we also know how we recruit our interns too, just to know where they're coming from.
Thank you, through the chair. So the internships are opportunities for people to come into our organization to learn how we do business in the areas or industries that they're interested. It's beyond a co-op. It's people that have already are either in their last year or have already completed their education. And they vary from anywhere from 1-year terms up to 3-year, 20-week terms. So it's broken down by different lengths of weeks to come in and work side by side and learn the industry.
Councilor?
Thank you. So they're obviously paid positions then?
Correct.
Another one that I would need to just have sort of whatever larger picture you can give us is Appendix B, number 8. It says information technology, digital transformation, the rollout of the Microsoft Copilot and Fabric. Just no idea what that is.
To staff?
Thank you, through the chair. So we found that we were able to identify savings within these 2 programs. Microsoft Fabric is our cloud-based data platform that helps us with data management. And Microsoft Copilot is the AI assistant that's built into Microsoft 365.
Councilor Stevenson?
Perfect, that's all mine for now.
Okay, Councilor Frank.
Thank you, and I just wanted to share which ones that I'm generally not supportive of and don't need staff to make a report on. I agree with the mayor, I'm not interested in the item 5, Appendix B, the closure of the 5 waiting pools. I wouldn't support that at council. Additionally, under Appendix C, I wouldn't support reducing or stopping the green bin program in multi-unit residential, as well as the item 3 for stop collecting blue box materials, and item 5, the contribution to the Climate Change Reserve Fund, as it's already very modest as it is. So I won't support those moving forward.
Thank you. And all those will be called separate through B and C when we get there. Counselor Trapsow.
Thank you very much, and I'm really glad I'm going after Councillor Frank because now I can talk less because she raised a couple of things that I wanted to flag, and I agree with everything she said. We've made so much progress on the blue box that I just don't think it's a great time to not keep moving forward on that. What I want to talk about, though, is roadway maintenance, reduced summer sidewalk maintenance, and also the reduced road network improvements. I believe that in the long run, this would not be helping us very much because both of these programs are they're safety features, and if we don't have them, I think that there's a greater possibility that we're going to have injuries, and if we have injuries, we have claims, and I think that whatever cost savings you find here on a sidewalk or on a pothole, I just think we could just lose that really quickly, just in a couple of claims. Furthermore, in terms of one, roadway maintenance, I mean, if we use lower cost asphalt, we're just going to have to come back and do it again. Could somebody tell me the difference between, maybe this is too much detail, but the difference in the life of a sidewalk panel replacement and patching it?
Ms. Chair?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, that would be information we would prepare as part of the budget case, should you wish to receive it.
Counselor Trapsow.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to say that both 1 and 2 are real non-starters for me, just based on the feedback that I get from residents about sidewalk safety, and I think that if we don't have safe sidewalks, that if we need a panel replacement and don't do it, I think we also have accessibility problems. Even if we do the asphalt repair, it's going to start to degenerate. And I just think these are false savings. So I'll be against those. Certainly the wading pools and the other things that Councilor Frank raised are problems for me as well. And I think it's a good idea to just eliminate some of these now, so I appreciate the time that we're spending on this, because it's going to be less work and less time later. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Pribble.
Thank you, Sir Chair. And I have a couple of questions to the staff that arose from the comments from my colleagues. And first I have to Mrs. Smith, actually. You mentioned the ratio of 63.7 versus 36.3. According to my notes, 2 years ago, we were 61 to 39. So therefore, if my notes are correct, we are moving towards additional 2.3% towards the tax base and taxpayers subsidizing these amounts. If you can just confirm it, if that is correct.
To staff.
Thank you, and through the chair, that is correct. We have made some minimal additional increases to user fees over the last couple of years, specifically tied to the minimum wage changes. We are going through now with a Parks and Recreation Master Plan update. We will be looking at a lot of our numbers, and as part of that, we will be looking at our ratios when we look at our fast-growing city, and we will probably come back at the same time with potentially a new cost recovery model for recreation and sport programs, along with that Parks and Rec Master Plan update.
Counselor?
Thank you for that answer. Chair, to Mr. Pardy. You mentioned human resources, 11 internships, 2, 3, and 6 HR, 6 HR. You didn't mention 6. You said HR potentially not needed, not as a beneficial. So is my assumption correct that the 2 plus 3, the 6 HR elimination would be the 84,000?
Staff?
That's correct.
Counselor?
Okay, thank you for that. And now to the finance last question. If I calculated this, all these savings, I came up to $2.8 million. $2.8 million if we consider $8 million, 1% roughly. So they would represent 0.35% of taxpayers. So just if you can confirm to me that if we approved all these cases to go forward, even if you came back, we are saving 0.35% of the taxpayers' money.
Mr. Murray?
Thank you, through the chair. So the total tax levy at this point is for 1% is a little closer to 8.9 million now, so it's a little higher than that. So 2.8 million on 8.9 is about 0.3, so just slightly lower than you noted, Councillor.
Councillor Pibble.
Okay, so thank you for that. So I just want to reiterate that if we go ahead with all these cases, if we prove all of them to the full amounts, we are saving 0.3% of the taxpayers' base. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to share some of my thoughts here, I'm glad we're going to be separating these and business cases. Look forward to some business cases coming forward. I do want to follow up on the Mayor's comments around waiting pools. I'm not at all interested in getting a business case. A couple of years ago, we did take away some waiting pools in the city, and it was quite contentious in the community. They are very important to communities. So I am not interested in reducing any further waiting pools in our city as our population grows. Having said that, my interest is keeping our tree canopy, making the requirements of our climate and emergency plan, where we're going as a council and supporting that. I do have a question through you, Chair, to staff about the Capital Financing Climate Change Reserve Fund contribution. If you could just give me an update and a bit of history, because I know we took some money out of that, and I'm not exactly sure where we're at.
Thank you. Appendix C, item 5.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So the $192,000 that you see noted in the appendix is the remaining ongoing contribution to that reserve fund. So you are correct, Councillor. Over the course of the past couple of budget years, reductions have been made to that ongoing contribution. And what you see in front of you is what is left in terms of the annual ongoing contribution to that reserve fund every year.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the update, and I am not at all interested in reducing it any further. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferreira. And then Councillor Lehman, I'll need you to take chair sooner than later. Councillor Ferreira.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to, I hear what the committee here is saying. I'm in line with a lot of the items that I've heard already. I do have some questions because I know I'm probably not in line with two. But I wanted to, just before I go into that, I do know that we're talking about elimination or reductions. Do we need direction for that, or is that just going to come in a future business case amongst the two? And the reason I ask would be, for example, for Appendix B4, as I heard with the urban forestry, tree planting grants, and non-replacement tree planting, like I wanted to know what's the uptake on that for the city, and then I wanted to know if there is something, this is the one that I'm struggling with. I just wanted to know what the uptake would be on that. But before I get to the question, how would these business cases be? Would we have both an elimination and a reduction option in that business case?
Thank you. Yeah, specifically what that business case would look like coming back.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So just for clarity, the items listed in Appendix B are program or service reductions, so they do not reflect full elimination of those programs. They reflect a reduction, a partial reduction to those programs or services. Similarly, in Appendix C, those would reflect full elimination of those programs or services. So we've intentionally made that distinction between the two appendices that you see in this report. The business cases that go along with these would be framed according to how they have been presented in this report. So, for example, if the business case pertains to one of the items in Appendix D, which is a service reduction, the business case would be written as such. And similarly, if it's an Appendix C item, it would be written as a full elimination of that. Now, in some cases, if we're, for example, proposing to eliminate a full program or service, there may be options for partial instead, and that could be the conversation that then happens during budget deliberations on those potential Appendix C business cases.
Councillor Ferreira.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for that answer. So I guess going back to that example for item 4 in Appendix B, so that reduction is based on what? is that based on, like I was saying before, like the uptake of the program, or just areas that staff have found that potentially we could have this reduction and not impact that program?
Mr. Murray, or just whoever wants to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Yeoman's online, and he's able to answer that question.
Welcome. Please proceed, Mr. Yeoman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. So for the tree grant program, our grant program has been largely paused for the last year. So we've been doing a review and working to create the grant program and to relaunch it actually with something pretty new and exciting. We have $100,000 that's allocated towards that. So what's being proposed here is to drop it into half. So it'd be $50,000 for that. For the tree planting portion, our tree planting budget for street trees is $400,000 a year. So this would be a quarter of that. What we are suggesting with this, and we would elaborate further in the business case, we are seeking federal government funding for tree planting as well. And we think there might be an opportunity then to backfill this funding with that as we go forward. Or if not, then we'd be seeking that funding to do additional tree planting as well.
Councillor Farah.
Okay, thank you for that. That's helpful. All right, for Appendix B, item 8, it was asked kind of about the data storage or the Copilot and the AI Microsoft Assistants or Fabric. I just wanted to follow up on that. I heard on the answer that I think it was the Fabric side is a data storage piece or something like that. I just wanted to know, I guess generally speaking, what kind of data and where else would we put that data? I just want to know, do we lose capacity to hold whatever we put in that area, or are we going to be shifting that to somewhere else?
Thank you. I'm going to caution that some of these are really specific questions that would come back in a business case, but a high-level answer from staff.
So through the chair, this one is a cloud-based data management. It's not storage. If you need anything more specific on that, I would have to take that back to our director of ITS and provide something back for you, because that is very specific. And when it comes to data storage, it's not something we normally discuss openly.
Yes, thank you. Always a caution of IT security and external threats. Councillor Ferreira.
I figured that, but you did answer my question. This is about the management of data, not about storage. Okay, so that helps. That's all my questions for now.
Thank you. I'm going to go to, so I still haven't got through first, and then I'll get back to seconds. Councillor Rahman.
Thank you, and through you. So there's a number of these that I think the conversation has been helpful to clarify kind of what the intent is, because I wasn't entirely clear as to where the savings are being found. And so automatic reaction was maybe a no, but now I'm willing to hear where this might come from. With respect to the recreation and sports user fees, because it is amongst a large amount of fees, I'm willing to entertain looking at them, but I'm just wondering at what level of detail will we receive the feedback? So will it just be, here was the set rate at this point, here's what we're recommending? My concern is, I remember when we had this conversation the last time, and there was tremendous impact into the aquatic sector, specifically to London Aquatic Club and to others that the Forest City Diving, et cetera. And because of those changes, they had to then pass along those kinds of costs to their users. And so my concern is that when we go forward with this, will we have enough time and enough opportunity to engage with stakeholders, or would they just be expected to read the report and come in here and talk to us during the public participation meeting?
Mr. Murray?
Thank you, and through the chair. So part of alongside the budget, we're also preparing our user fee detail report that is required every year, that is attached to a public participation meeting. So if we're directed to go forward with this recommendation, we would then, as you might have seen that report, we have hundreds of user fees. We would do all our exploring of where we would do our increases and what and if we would increase based on what the market is like now. then we would include it line by line, any changes. As we've laid out those user fees for the entire multi-year budget process, we would then relook at what already was our increase for 2026, and we would also look at 2027 and may adjust those depending on where we go, and we would look at each individual fee, and you would see those fully laid out in that user fee detail report that we would be proposing to council for review. And I believe, if I'm correct, the city clerk can correct, that also includes a public participation meeting for Londoners to come and talk about the pros and cons of potential increase to user fees.
Councillor Rahman.
Thank you. So I guess my concern remains that these groups usually don't know that this conversation is taking place, and by the time they find out or figure out that there's going to be impact to their service, it's a bit too late for them to participate in the process actively. So I just want to share that caution, having the Canada Games Aquatic Center in my ward. That is something of concern. Having more recreational options for young people right now that are cost effective, that are, accessible in all ways is really important. So this is one where I will be looking and making sure to try to engage with community as much as possible as we move forward with that discussion. Excuse me, but I want to talk about some of Appendix B. I'm willing to look at a business case for 1, 2, 3, and 5, or sorry, not to look at a business case for 1, 2, 3, and 5, but my concern is some of these items, as I mentioned, could go into some cost reductions that could come from other sources like reserve. So I'm going to kind of figure out if that's a possibility or not before, and that's what I'm weighing right now. I'm not interested in seeing us not fund the urban forestry reduction in pathways and trail edge brush mulching, especially with having the Medway forest in my ward and also in other parts of Ward 6 and elsewhere. This is something I get continuous requests for support along trails edges so that people can enjoy those pathways, and I think $100,000 is potentially, yes, it's a savings, but I'm not sure if we're doing enough as it is. And then just with respect to some of the other business cases that are in front of us, I have already probably received somewhere between 10 and 15 calls about item 4, which is our summer maintenance around these subdivision internal traffic circles, subdivision gateway features. These are very much a concern in my part of the city around how we maintain them. So I'd love to see more maintenance. And so seeing any savings there, I think, will be a challenge for my ward in particular. So I'm not willing to see a business case on any savings in that area. I know some of what we've done already is we've made some changes in terms of the what's in those beds so that they're not flowers and they're just grassed over, so they're easier to maintain. I'm already receiving feedback from residents that have had that happen, and they feel as though we're taking away the beautification that was part of the subdivision agreement, which was part of what the reason why they enjoyed their neighborhood. And so it is, I think, an ongoing concern. So I ask my colleagues not to support 4.
30 seconds.
And lastly, I will say again, I do not want to see us reduce recycling programming, but would entertain it coming from other sources like the reserve.
Thank you. I'll recognize Councillor Lehman next, and then he can recognize me when we'll trade when we're done.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to follow up on Councillor Rahman there as far as timing of public engagement. My idea, and I'm sure many of your councillors around here, is when it comes time to next fall, is to, engage with our constituents, probably, I plan to, like, by the town hall. What do you suggest for that timing, where we will have an idea of where the mayor's budget is going, for suggested amendments suggested to the mayor? I just want to get a feel for what you see in the process, what would be appropriate.
Mr. Murray?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. So the mayor's budget will be released in full and in its entirety on October the 27th. So that will then kick off the formal part of the budget deliberations process. So at that point, you will have full details, full information on all of the budget business cases that are being contemplated through this year's process, including those that are included in the mayor's budget and those that are not. So the benefit of doing your consultation with your constituents in the month or early in the month of November is that you have those full details. They can see the full implications of the potential business cases in those business cases and have a fulsome discussion on those potential options with all the information. Having said that, though, there is no reason why you cannot gauge your constituents' interest and appetite in these options that are in front of you in this report today. I appreciate that the information at this point is high level, but I suspect many of you, as has been noted, are already receiving calls and having conversations with your constituents about them. So certainly I would encourage you to continue that over the coming months in preparation for the formal budget deliberations that will happen in November, at which point you'll have all the information at your fingertips to be able to have those full consultations.
Mr. Murray, before I hand it back to Councillor Lehman, at what point is it an appropriate time for you and I to send her a joint email of letting them know when they can start booking those ward meetings, just for their hold on our calendar, and we can get the facility and the spaces booked, recognizing you will, I'm also not sure of your timeline when you'll book your city pop-up events. Just looking for the timing of that and when we can start putting a request into you.
Through you, Madam Chair. So we are actually in the process right now of working with our communications team to iron out the details of our public engagement, our city-led public engagement events and activities. So that is being finalized right now. So I would say within the next few weeks, we will then be able to initiate the process and engage interest on specific councillor-led events and ward meetings.
Do you anticipate that's something that could be made available for our June budget meeting of letting us know what city events are done, as long as the comms team has had a chance to finalize those with you?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do think that is appropriate for inclusion in the June 11th report.
Perfect. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, because, you know, it's, we see these lists of things come through, and of course, we don't want to get rid of anything, right? But what we don't hear is people saying, well, my property taxes are too high. So, you know, I think it's important to have, you know, the discussion for me with my constituents to say, okay, your property taxes are too high. Here's some of the things we're considering. What do you think? And they might go, people might go, yeah, you know, I'm fine with keeping these things, but I understand that taxes are going to be what they are, or vice versa. But at this point, you know, I find it hard. There's some things in here which I don't want to proceed with, obviously, but for the most part, I want to just keep it open for that discussion to happen. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are you able to take the chair at this time for I can speak?
Thank you. So I have the chair, and I'll recognize Councillor Pelosi.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. To staff, thank you for this. Also noting that you were directed to find ideas, that it wasn't, these are the things we're recommending. It's here's some things for our consideration, and that we're starting the conversation from that point. I'll note procedurally as well, we had this conversation today. At any point at council, we can bring forward other ideas at the next budget committee meeting. I'll highlight Appendix B, Item 1. I intend to do some work and bring back wording for sidewalk maintenance around mud jacking. The City of London currently doesn't do it. Other places do, where you actually raise the slab up. Experienced that with my own driveway, had great results. Also knowing that sometimes sidewalks are removed and then weather hits and there's a gap in the sidewalk infrastructure for accessibility for some time. So I'll work on that motion. I just didn't have it for today. The Item 2 for colleagues, I hear great concern from residents about the pavement quality index in some neighborhoods and alligatoring. potholes, which sometimes are referred to as inverted speed bumps. They're there and they still slow traffic. And last term of council, we did do a scale back, and some roads that were in the next year to be slated still haven't come back up for their turn. So that small reduction can sometimes cost that street that's been waiting almost a decade longer of a wait. Number 3, did some high-level internet research. And my understanding of this trail edge brush is that potentially they're mulching in place things that could be around the trail's edge, could be just too much brush, thick brush, invasive plants, would have a potential impact on trail maintenance. Hearing from Ward 12 residents, especially around White Oaks Park, about an increase in ticks in the area along some of our trails, and their concern of just really making sure that things are scaled back to protect the kids on walking to school routes, and just as they're out with their families and dogs, enjoying the area. So concerns with that one. As per Appendix C, I know I've heard from some small businesses around the blue box materials that, you know, a small local pizza place saying, can we just put out our boxes anyways? It's pizza sauce cans, and just help with waste diversion that way. Might be part of a business case, but a question through you, Mr. Presiding Officer, to staff. If the city is looking to collect a fee back to help cover the costs that we're not mandated to cover, is there a way to potentially include a small fee in the business licensing fee if we're looking at recouping that? Not sure if there's an answer at this time, but realizing they're licensed could be a way to track the businesses that way and recoup a small nominal fee.
I'll go with staff on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We could evaluate whether or not there's a user fee or cost recovery basis for this. Because of the small number of customers, if we're to go to full cost recovery, it may be more than they wish to do. There might be a possibility of an offset as well. So we could explore some sort of self-financing model at that time.
Go back to Councilor Pelosi.
Thank you. Having heard those comments, would you need an amendment to the motion or just something to consider procedurally?
Madam Chair, I don't want to speak for, Mr. Chair, I don't want to speak for my colleagues in finance, but I think we've heard from committee that if there are alternative financing strategies for some of these services, that we should be considering that as part of our business cases.
I'll go with Budget Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'm not interested in stopping that collection. I've heard from local businesses that it matters to them, and some of them it's really small, but also knowing that we're trying to, it's something that we're not mandated to cover, and appreciating where those funds are coming from. I'll say for the green bin cart pickup pilot project, was super excited. Was at the launch of it, as the first one was in my ward. And residents of the apartment building were really excited to be included in it, because they don't have a standalone home, but it just made them feel included, that they could help divert their waste, realizing a family in an apartment building produces the same amount of food waste as a family in a standalone home. Looking through you, it's going to be a question to Ms. Scher. If there was any consideration given for a potential business case for places that, such as places of worship who get weekly garbage pickup, that they would just lose that weekly pickup and just fall into the normal bi-weekly pickup that anyone in the residential neighborhoods would follow.
I'll go with staff.
Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Stanford's online and he can provide some additional information about services that are provided to places of worship. Generally, they receive similar service to the route for residential that they're on. The exception would be where they're on a downtown route, for example, which does receive multiple pickups a day, and they would be part of that cycle. But in a residential neighborhood, they are receiving it at the same rate as usually the residents. But Mr. Stanford certainly knows all the details.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, through the presiding officer. It is not something we're specifically looking at this time. For example, when it comes to churches and places of worship, we do collect right now from about 140 locations. It might have increased in the last year or two. We just haven't done an update. It is something that, if directed, we could look at more deeply to find out if there's opportunities to make adjustments that are financially beneficial to the city overall, and other potential options.
Budget Chair.
Sorry, thank you. Just flipping through 1,001 pages of good stuff. Question in regards to Appendix B, number 5, the potential closure of the 5 waiting pools. When those waiting pools come up for life cycle renewal, just inherently, naturally on their own, is that a decision made by the park staff within the confines of their approved operating budget, or is that a decision that would come back to the appropriate standing committee at that time when it's time for life cycle renewal?
I'll go staff.
Thank you, and through the chair, the City of London, we began operating waiting pools back in the 1960s and continued to build into the 1980s. Many of them, we had a total of 23 waiting pools. Now we only have 9. There's really not been a rebuild of waiting pools. We either have decommissioned or replaced with a spray pad, which is more cost-effective and efficient. So the remaining 9 waiting pools, as I said, most of them were built in the 1960s. There is very minimal life cycle renewal for these. As part of the Parks and Rec Master Plan in 2019, one of the recommendations was to begin develop criteria and begin decommissioning waiting pools and look at other alternatives. Because of the age of them, the aging infrastructure, the standards have changed over the years for waiting pools, and the hours of operation for waiting pools is very minimal as compared to a spray pad where we turn on the water and we open them from May to September, where a waiting pool is about 8 weeks of a year. It has 2 staff at it. So that was the plan in 2019 to begin to look at decommissioning them. We haven't gone forward with that.
Go to the Budget Chair.
Thank you. My specific question was when decommission or life cycle renewal comes back, is it a Parks and Rec staff decision, or does it come to committee for their consideration of if they would like to move forward with the decommissioning?
I'll go staff.
Thank you, and through the chair, if we were going forward with a recommendation to decommission, we would bring that forward with the criteria and the rationale to council to review.
Go to the Budget Chair.
Thank you, and that concludes my questions.
Thank you, and I'll return the chair to you, Madam Chair, with I have no one on the speakers list.
Thank you. I certainly do. Councillor Van Merbergen.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to Appendix B, number 2, reduction in road network improvements, I'm sure we can all agree that London roads are coming apart right before our eyes as we speak. To go ahead with a business case, even at the business case level, I have no interest in, and I'm sure many don't. I mean, to go even poorer in terms of the state of London roads is not good for the city. I mean, who among us would be in favor of even poorer roads than we have now? So I'm certainly going to voice my opinion on this, that it should not go to a business case. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking to see if there's any other council members who have not had the opportunity to speak yet. There's 3 of you remaining if you'd like to speak at this time. Okay. I do have people on the list looking for second comments. I'll note that this was a process to see if we want the business cases to come back. So just looking for, I would ideally say, final comments or those burning questions that you cannot make a decision if you want a business case yet or not, unless you have that information. So I had Councillor Pribble, potentially with a burning question, Councillor Stevenson, and Mayor Morgan, just to let you know the speakers list I'm going on. Councillor Pribble.
Thank you, sir, the chair, to the staff, or actually specifically Ms. Smith. If we do go ahead with the recreation user fees increase or looking at the business case, you did mention you are going to look at other organizations providing locally such services, which that I would imagine there will be the competitive analysis. Would you be including also comparative analysis with the other municipalities to see where we stand?
Ms. Smith?
Through you, Chair, definitely, we would be looking at our peer municipalities too.
Counselor?
Thank you very much. Last question through the chair to Mr. Murray. Based on when we kind of made the assumption that based on what's in front of us, we are looking at 0.3%. Can you please tell me where it would be on average home property tax, what it would reflect average and also on the median home? Thank you.
Mr. Murray, if you have those numbers, if not, I can come back.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. So just as a reminder to council, property taxes are based on assessed values, not market values, whether that be average or median. We base our calculations on the average assessed value for a residential property, which is currently $252,000, again, assessed value. Each 1% represents approximately $39, $40, approximately in that range. So 0.3% to the average residential property owner would represent in the neighborhood of approximately $12.
Councillor Pringle.
Okay, thank you for that amount. And the reason why I'm asking is because we do supply or we make public the charts, the graph charts to the public, comparing ourselves to other municipalities, both on medium and average. So that's why I was wanted to know how much would it be in dollars. Thank you very much. No more questions.
Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. Just a quick question on Appendix B7 again in terms of the internships. So if I do the math on the 84,000 for 6 HR internships, it's about 14,000 a year. Is that correct? And would that be true for the ARO and the planning as well?
Staff?
Through the chair, so that's correct for the ARAO, approximately $13,671 per person, and for human resources. The engineering one internships, they're up to a 1-year term in length, and they average approximately 60 to 69,000 for those two each.
Councillor Stevenson. Mayor Morgan.
Yes, as you asked for just some final comments, I'll just say I appreciate the discussion that my colleagues had. I also appreciate the strong temptation to try to debate the business case that we don't have yet. There's a lot of details we don't have. I want to give one example just so colleagues have a sense, because there is one of these things that I actually know quite a bit about. Like, for example, Appendix C, Item 1, is a program that used to be a local improvement. So taxpayers could say, we'd like a set of streetlights. We could say, sure, you can go ahead. We'll add it to your taxes over a 10-year period. Everybody on the street pays for it. You can have streetlights. We moved it to a fully funded program so that we pay for that. Since we moved it to a fully funded program, no one's done it. And so it would move back to a local improvement. There wasn't any uptake on this. We would have all of those details and details like that on all the other things to make decisions on, ask questions about, decide if we want to fund them different ways. So I appreciate that it's kind of a difficult position to be in to say, I want more information, knowing you might want to go 5 different directions on it later, but without the information, you don't know how you want to go. So there's an example of one that there's a lot of details on that might actually inform how you'd like to go about it, because it's easy to make a lot of assumptions about these without knowing exactly where we're going to go. Again, I recognize for some, it's pretty clear what they mean. And colleagues don't want to support them, but for the most part, I'm going to support the information on most of them, with the exception I made. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm committed to, putting them in a table budget or supporting, amendments on them. I'll reserve that decision for when I have the full details.
Thank you. I see no hands online or in chambers. The advice from staff is we're going to do the vote on Appendix D first. Sorry, Appendix B. So I'll note that we're going to use the same mover and seconder. As you'll see in eScribe, that inherently everything's in to be a business case. So this is a vote to exclude it. So if you would like to exclude it and not get a business case, you'll vote yes. If you would like the business case, if you want the business case, you'll vote no. If you don't want the business case, you will vote yes, because you're voting yes to exclude it. So we will go in numerical order.
Excuse me, Chair. Would you mind just repeating that?
Yeah, so I'm going to advise that you hit current item in eScribe. So you will see that it reads that civic administration be directed to exclude the following business case in the 2026 budget update. We're going numerical order, so it's number 1, which is the roadway maintenance, reduced summer sidewalk maintenance. So if you would like it excluded, no business case, you vote yes. If you're like, bring me that business case, you will vote accordingly. Okay, I'm seeing some nods. Councillor Ferrer, you strictly
To what you said, in layperson terms. I know, I'm just, to confirm in my own mind, I guess. I see civic administration be directed to exclude the following business case. If I want to keep that program, I vote yes.
If you don't want the business case to come forward to eliminate that program, you will vote yes.
Okay, I think I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Because you need to understand, because like the next 15 votes are all going to be the same. Okay. So it seems that we're all good. Same mover and seconder. We are opening the question for the first one.
Closing the vote, motion carries 10-4.
So that means staff will not make a business case for that item. Okay. Vote number 2.
Make a business case to eliminate that. Okay, I think I voted the wrong way.
So staff will not make a business case, which means there'll be no business case to eliminate that money. Ms. Barbone, do you want to clarify perhaps in a different voice? Well,
Okay, I'm good, I'm good.
clarify anyways.
But clarify it anyway.
You have.
Okay, now you can hear me, through the chair. So what we had originally, the intent of this was to tell us which business cases you don't wish to do. Thinking that there may only be a few, perhaps, that council would just say, please exclude the following, that you would vote on. Perhaps in the interest of maybe making it easier for people, noting we're going through every single one, would it be perhaps simpler to simply change the word to include? Tell us whether, is it easier for people to wrap their head around this if we were to change the exclude to include so that you're voting yes for a business case versus voting no for no business case? I recognize that's change for the clerk, but if that's easier, that might be another way to approach it.
Recognizing
It's up to committee if you can understand the way it's been written. It was moved this way. If there's comprehension issues, we can change it, but I think everyone actually, for the most part, voted what they intended. Okay, I'm seeing nods. Next time, we can keep that in mind of double negatives and confusion. Okay, second one. This is roadway planning and design, the reduced road network improvements. Counselor Purple.
I just want to make one comment because what I heard the questions around me. When it's excluded, the staff is not going to do it, but I don't think that was the confusion. The confusion for what I heard around me is if it's excluded, the money stays in the budget and it goes forward. I think that was the case. So it wasn't the excluded, included. It was, if you vote excluded, it is not, we are not asking them to do it,
Yeah.
but the money stays in the budget.
Yeah, is that your like, you need to know that? Like, if people around you want to ask, they can ask their own questions. So, that's correct. We're opening the vote on 2.
Closing the vote. Motion carries 9-5.
Third one, urban forestry reduction and pathway and trail edge brush mulch.
Counselor Trossau, Mayor Morgan. Closing the vote. Motion carries 8-6.
Urban forestry tree planting grants and non-replacement tree planting. Opening the vote.
Closing the vote. Motion fails 7-7.
Number 5, aquatics closure of 5 wading pools.
Counselor Hopkins.
Excuse me, Chair, I voted wrong on that. Just don't.
Then change it. It's still open.
And to confirm, yes means you don't want a business case. Thank you.
Closing the vote. Motion carries 12-2.
I was in the middle of
It's
changing
fine.
my vote.
Okay, the crosstalk needs to stop. We're in the middle of a voting series. 6, corporate management resident satisfaction survey.
Closing the vote, motion failed, 4 to 10.
Seven, human resources internships.
Closing the vote, motion failed, 1 to 13.
Eight, information technology digital transformation.
Closing the vote, motion fails, 1 to 13.
That moves us on to Appendix C. 1, traffic control and street lighting, eliminate full funding of new street light installations.
Councillor Plurbull? Closing the vote, motion fails, 7 to 7.
2, recycling and composting, stop multi-residential green bin cart pilot project and future expansion.
Closing the vote, motion passes, 9 to 5.
3, recycling and composting, stop collecting blue box materials and from non-eligible sources.
Councillor Trossow? Closing the vote, motion carries, 10 to 4.
Parks and horticulture, maintenance of local road traffic circles, gateway features, and cul-de-sac islands.
Closing the vote, motion carries, 8 to 6.
5, capital financing climate change reserve fund contribution.
Closing the vote, motion fails, 7 to 7.
Thank you. That leaves us with. Okay, I'll note that these votes are recorded and will still go to council for a final vote. Should you have changed your mind, heard from residents, or realized you voted differently than you intended, realizing it may or may not have made a difference. We still need to dispose of A, B, and C of this. Yeah, so we're receiving the information. Staff is directed for the right sizing and Appendix A. Counselor Hopkins, a question, or? Yeah, we're using the same mover and seconder for the rest of it, and that'll be coming up in a moment.
Is this being split out, or is it all one?
It's all one. Did you need something split?
I'd like to vote on C.
Okay, we're going to cancel the vote and call it separate. Okay, we're just preparing it. We're going to do A and B together and first, and then we'll finish off the rest. Okay, calling the question on A and B.
Closing the vote, motion carries 14-0.
Thank you. Calling now.
Closing the vote, motion carries 10-4.
Okay, that concludes item 4.1. Just give me a moment to unshuffle my papers as we move into 4.2. Councillor Stevenson, this was a correspondence from you. This is your LEDC one, looking to see what your intention is at this time.
Yes, thank you. After a few conversations, I'd like to refer this to the SPPC committee when LEDC is scheduled to appear. And I believe I have a seconder in Councillor Hillier.
Councillor Hillier's indicated he's still your seconder on that. It's just being loaded into eScribe, as the clerks did have the wording beforehand, so thank you for that. Traditionally, LEDC has appeared in October. That date's not set yet, but whatever date Mr. Lacotia comes for his annual update, he'll have the list of these questions to address during his presentation. Councillor Stevenson, would you like to speak to it as it's been moved and seconded? And if you refresh, it is in eScribe and up on the screens for those in the gallery.
Yes, thank you. So the reason I brought it forward to the Budget Committee is just as we were all asked to look deeper into the financials and the opportunity for cost savings, this one has come up where it's a $3 million a year contract to which we don't have any oversight or transparency around to the public or to council. So not suggesting anything untoward, just wanting to do the due diligence that Londoners are asking of me to say, if we're looking at all the boards and commissions, I realize this isn't one, but you know, as far as the public's concerned, it's the same as the others, just a different contractual arrangement. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to just say that we've done our due diligence on it, and the appropriate timing does seem to be more for the SPPC. The reason I brought it to budget was, as I said, it's in alignment. It lets the public know that we're dealing with it at the same time we're speaking with all of our other boards and commissions.
Thank you. Further speakers on this item? Councillor Trevsau.
Thank you very much. Well, I think it's better to have it at the SPPC than to have it here, because in my view, it's clearly not a budget item. I was going to oppose this very strongly in any event, So I'm not really sure I can support just continuing this discussion someplace else. So I am a little confused right now. I guess I have a question for staff. When LEDC comes in for their normal meeting with us, presumably, what did you say, October? Would these questions be able to be asked anyway?
To staff, Ms. Bear, Daters Bear?
Thank you, through you, Chair. There are certainly elements of this proposed resolution that are specific to civic administration. There's some requests around civic administration to do some certain things, and so we can do that. There are other things that, as has noted in the resolution, proposed resolution, that would be received in closed session at this point in time as well, including the financial statements. When this organization or other organizations that we fund through our economic development strategy funding come forward, they do present an overview of the work that they do. So there will be opportunities for council members to ask questions at that point in time. We would go back through this, and as we've been doing over the last little while since receiving this as in draft form, to determine what information could be shared publicly and what information could certainly be shared in confidence. The question around whether or not LEDC has any opportunity to seek federal or provincial funding is certainly something that could be addressed publicly, as could the request for the budget for 2026.
Councillor?
Well, they certainly do, based on what I understand, they certainly do seek work on seeking federal funding and helping other people. I still don't see the point of this. I still don't see the point of this if they're going to be here in front of us and people can ask questions that are appropriate questions. So I'll still be voting no, and that's just to indicate that I don't think, I'll leave it at that. I'm just going to be voting no.
Thank you. Procedurally, a note that if civic administration or LEDC isn't aware of questions in advance, it would help them to be prepared and come with questions, especially if we need to set up a closed session in advance, that would be prepared. Councillor Purple.
Thank you. I do want to mention one thing to my colleagues, that if you don't want to wait till September, the CEO, Mr. Lakhotia, I meet with him regularly, and he's very open to sharing this information with any one of us. So I just want to let you know that, so you don't have to wait till September if you really want to know. That's one thing. Second thing is, and I know it has to do a little bit with this, but we approved the economic development strategy, and currently there was the timeline was 7 months. Can you please confirm this to me? And the reason why I'm saying it, because I want to tie it to the LEDC. So it does have to do with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cautioning that it's actually a referral, this item on the floor, before we get into questions about the ECDEV plan.
Sorry, I will repeat it through the chair. So we did agree, the council, go ahead with a third party, with the London Economic Strategy. The timeline was 7 months. Can you please tell me if it's still accurate and when this economic strategy should be developed?
Questioning the relevancy to the referral on the floor, but I think it's just timing the economic development plan that we're going to see it back.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that's the plan, and obviously working hard to get it back to you as quickly as possible. Respecting the fact that later this fall you'll have a budget to consider as well. So,
Councillor Purple.
Thank you for that answer. So, as my colleague says, you know, I wasn't for supporting the contract that we signed a couple of years ago, and I think that I will be voting against this as well. The reason why is that I really believe after the strategy is done, that there should be revisiting the entire contract and our cooperation with LEDC, and that's the reason why I wanted to know. So when I look at the timeline, by September, we will not be knowing the results of this. So thank you for answering that. So I will be,
If I could, Madam Chair, through you, we do have a current contract with LEDC and other organizations for economic development funding. Part of the economic development strategy is to look at roles, responsibilities, and get feedback from stakeholders and others with respect to how we deliver economic development services in this community. That could include who would do that work for us. But currently, we have a contract in place until 2027 with his organization.
Thank you. I completely agree, but based on whatever the results are, I think it's going to be the right timing, and I'll be proposing, and I hope LEDC and the other two organizations that will be willing to do as well, to make changes to the current contract we have, because it might.
Sorry, I'm just going to have to procedurally, we're talking about other organizations as a referral for LEDC only. You just got to keep your comments really tight as you.
Oh, I said it because the city manager mentioned other organizations, so I'll stick to LEDC. But no more comments. You answered my question, and I just needed to know how to vote on this item that's in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you that you got the information you need. My next speaker is Mayor Morgan, and then I'll do a last call for questions.
Yeah, so I'll speak against the referral, mainly because I actually don't need this information, whether it's here or at council. And I will echo what Councilor Pribble said. In speaking with the CEO and the board chair, these individuals are more than happy to meet with members of council who have questions about the organization. In fact, a number of the questions that are contained within the motion, I know Mr. Lecotier and the board chair are happy to sit down. My understanding is Councilor Pribble actually recently did that with the organization and got a lot of questions answered. I think when items come directly to council through a committee, and the organizations haven't been consulted, they're just not having the opportunity to have that engagement and talk about the good work that they're doing. And even within the structure of the things being referred here, you know, we have a purchase of service contract with this organization. We set an amount that we're willing to pay, which council agreed on, to receive results which are reported back to us. Comparisons to Waterloo, we pay less. They have less money to work with overall LEDC, and they produce actually more net results. Like there's an ability to go in and have a good, robust conversation with this organization. There's some things that they're not going to share publicly, but I know that they're willing to share with some members of council if they want to sit down with them. So, I think I would strongly encourage members of council who have questions about the LEDC or organizations like it, have a sit down with them. Ask some questions. They'll tell you as much as they possibly can, and I think you'll get a lot of information from them, and it's a great way to form a collaborative relationship with an organization that's doing a lot of really good work for the city within our industrial sector and others. They've supported the city time and time again above and beyond their contract when, we had the pandemic and we formed, the response, the London Community Response Network. LEDC has stepped up. When we have the tariffs issue now, they joined the economic response team, and they're working to coordinate. This is above and beyond, what they're required to do, but they will step up and support the mandate of the city. So I'm not saying that the councillors can't ask these questions if they want. I think a lot of them, they could just go to the organization, and when they're before us, they can ask them. When the purchase of service contract comes up, when the economic development strategy is up, and we might be looking at a new model, some of these things could be looked at then, but I'm not sure putting it at the next available SPPC when they're here is going to resolve those questions, because we've got other processes in place that I think we need to complete before we get into an analysis of the purchase of service contract, which does not expire until December of 2027.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which way to vote because if I am supporting the referral to SPPC, I am feeling very uncomfortable that we are setting ourselves to go into camera. I have no problem following up with LEDC, asking questions. I do that on a regular basis, and I just don't think there's even a need to do this, so I will not be supporting the referral.
Okay. I don't see anyone online at this time. Procedurally on this motion, just so everyone knows before you vote, if it's a yes, this will go and be attached to when LEDC comes for their annual update in the fall. A vote no would mean it doesn't go there, at which point I would need a motion to receive the information, realizing regardless of how it happens, whatever questions a councillor might have can be asked during their annual update, others. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on this, that again, it's not saying that council, there's something that there's there that we need to, I'm not saying that there's a problem there. What I'm saying is, we have a contract of service to which we don't get to see the financial statements and the public doesn't get to see the financial statements. It's 100% funded from property tax dollars. And so there is an expectation when I speak to the public that they get to see where their money is spent. And I have full confidence that they'd be happy with what they could see. But the problem that they can't see it, is,
Just 1 second. I just got to pause everyone's clocks. So your time is paused. Counselor Trousseau.
She's debating the merits of the letter and the motion arising out of the letter, not the referral, which is what's on the table.
True. It is the referral on the table, so just frame it around the referral.
yeah, well, I feel that it is appropriate to refer it out of this committee. And I would like to see it addressed at SBPC in the fall, because we do have an annual renewal on those contracts. And I think it's incumbent upon us to just say we've looked at the financial statements, say we've asked about salaries, and then just be able to tell the public we did our due diligence as a board of governors over this, stewards of this money. And I just think that's the appropriate time to do it. And it's right before, we do the budget. So I would just ask for support on the referral.
Thank you. And I believe it's an annual update they give us, but their contract actually runs into 2027. Okay, I'm seeing nods just for clarity of language. Looking for further comments. Looking online, seeing none. Looking in chambers, seeing none. Opening the vote now.
Closing the vote, motion fails, 4-10.
Okay, so there's still a letter on our agenda that we will need to dispose of. Counselor Stevenson.
Can I make a motion to just receive it then?
Yes. So motion to receive by Counselor Stevenson, a seconder, and Counselor Hopkins. This will receive it, realizing that when the delegation comes and it's time, questions can still fully be asked there. Okay. Speaking briefly on the receipt.
Yes, I want to speak to the receipt. I appreciate that Councillor Stevenson moved the receipt. I would have seconded it. I also agree with not saying take no action on it. I meant what I said, but I do believe a number of these questions can get answered in other avenues, and if the councillor isn't satisfied with those avenues, want to reserve the right to bring some of these questions back at the appropriate time in the appropriate forum. So I appreciate that it's just receive and not take no action, because I think there's certainly a right to take some actions on these. Again, I would encourage the councillor to take some time to sit down with the LEDC. I think they'd be willing to chat with any member of council who wants to ask a few of these ahead of time, and if you want to still ask them in public, you can still do that.
Thank you. I'll note that Mr. Lacotia had reached out saying, as Councillor Pribble alluded to, his offer to meet anytime is open. And I believe some financial information is actually already sitting in the city manager's office if someone wanted to seek information there. Calling the question on receiving the correspondence from Councillor Stevenson.
Closing the vote, motion carries 14-0.
Thank you. That concludes item 4.2. Item 4.3 is a correspondence from Councillor Stevenson. I'll note in your added agenda there is a multitude of correspondence from the community. I'll note that the first one that you'll see is the letter, and then the clerk listed the names as it followed more of a form letter approach, just noting that correspondence was received as well without attaching each one for ease of access of the information. And then the ones that had different content were noted separately. I'm going to go to the councillor first out of respect, because they did submit the correspondence looking for their intent, and then we'll see what the intention is. Counselor Stevenson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to move the motion that I had in the letter and that was distributed, and I believe I have a seconder in Councillor Van Meerbergen.
Yes, I'll second.
Okay, I haven't asked for a seconder yet, so hold tight there, Counselor. So Counselor Stevenson, if you just read out what your motion was.
Yes, that civic administration be directed to report back to council with a list of all approved future cycling lane projects, their location, timeline, budgeted capital costs, source of funding, and estimated annual maintenance costs, with the intention that council will consult with the public and potentially delay or cancel some of these projects.
Thank you. As the chair, I am making a ruling from the chair that this is already decided matter of council. We discussed the master mobility plan and passed it through council on April 1st. If we were to discuss this today, it would need reconsideration by committee. And it's a simple majority if we would like to reconsider this today as the motion that the councillor read out as someone, so that's where the ruling is. So at this point, I would need a motion, if someone would like to move a motion to reconsider it, and it would be someone who supported it at committee. If Councillor Stevenson's looking to do that, you would be eligible.
I just wondered if I take out the last bit and just end the motion at estimated annual maintenance costs with no intention, would it be the same ruling of the chair?
Sorry, just one moment. Thank you for your patience to committee. The clerks are deeming that would, for them, justify with that removal and make it eligible to be before us today. And then we could do with it as committee what we will. So we're updating iScribe to remove, I believe you said, with the attention. Okay, so we're just eliminating that. Okay, if you just want to refresh your screen in eScribe, it should be loaded. Councillor Stevenson, does it read as you intended?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Van Meerbergen, are you remaining as the seconder?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that move is officially on the floor. Yeah. Okay, so for those who haven't, you might have to hit the little refresh button to make it come accurate. Procedurally, I'm going to go to Councillor Stevenson first, and then I'll start my speakers list from there, unless, if it's a point of order, yes, that trumps anything. Councillor Frank.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, so if this does come back to us in the fall at Budget Committee and we start debating cutting cycling projects that have already been approved in Master Mobility Plan, at that point, would that require reconsideration as it's a decided matter of council that we've already approved the MMP?
I will confer with the clerk for a moment. I will also highlight that there will be a difference as we move through this, depending on what comes back of what's been approved versus anything that was already put out to tender would be in a contradiction and procedurally out of order. So give me a moment. I'm making the clerk speak to it.
Thank you, Budget Chair. I would point to 35.1. So if there is a motion to reconsider, because at that time there may be a motion that hits the floor, and any motion to reconsider would have to consider whether there are anything being implemented resulting in a legally binding commitment that's in place. So at that point, and I wanted to flag this, reconsideration would not even be in order at that point. So it will depend on what the motion is that's put on the floor and whether there is a legally binding commitment. So it will depend on a number of factors. I hope that's helpful.
Councillor Frank, that resolves your point of order? Okay, thank you. And that's on page 41 of your council procedure bylaw for anyone who would like to read through it. So I'll note that when it does come time for a vote, if you don't want this information to come back, you'll vote no. If you want the information to come back, not knowing what it might entail, you will vote yes. I will commence my speakers list with Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I just wanted to explain why I brought this forward, and that you can see that in the recommendations or in the list that we just looked at, it really, there is very little that's going to move the needle in a significant way. And so one of the things I hear about a lot is the complaint about the cycling lanes. And we did talk in the master mobility plan that it was 180 to 200 million, so we're talking a very large amount. When I just think when we bring it up in the budget committee, we tap into a different population and segment of the population to get involved in this discussion. And having the clarity and the details there, I'm perfectly happy with getting all this information, and then in the fall, we say, yes, this looks good, and the general public supports it, and then at least we can say, because it's not all just budget reductions, some of it is the SWORD committee and clarity and accountability and transparency to say, hey, we've looked at it from the master mobility perspective, we endorsed it. Now we're looking at it from a fiscal responsibility perspective, and we still endorse it. Then we get to say to the public when they say this wasn't a good investment, we looked at it, we had the general public buy-in, and this is the decision that council made. So I think there's value in having the information so that we can respond to resident concerns and potentially find some savings. Like, it's been very interesting to hear the response that I've had just recently. People making suggestions about just tweaks to the kind of cycling lanes, where they are, transit cycling signals, details that we didn't get into in the master mobility plan. So again, from a transparency, accountability perspective, this isn't necessarily putting a target on the cycling lanes, but it's having us engage in an open public discussion around a somewhat contentious issue and get public buy-in on it, and maybe find some tax savings at the same time, and maybe provide better service.
Thank you. I see hands, just one second. Procedurally, to the mover and seconder, just administratively, it says report, be directed to report back to council. I assume we mean as council sits as budget committee. Okay. No one has an issue with changing administratively where it goes because it needs to go to the right place. Okay, we're good. The clerk is clerking that. Next on my speakers list, I'll have Councillor Frank, Councillor Rahman, Councillor Trousseau, and I can go from there. Realizing, I think we can just keep our comments as tight as possible.
Sorry, I have a procedural question.
Yes.
Thank you. This was scheduled from 10 to noon. I'm just wondering what's the plan in terms of, are we going to continue on? I know other people have commitments, and I'm not sure that I personally, I'm okay with referring this to the next meeting if that's possible, just so that we can sit for the time that we were supposed to sit for.
I'll say there was no end time to the committee meeting. That was strictly what your scheduler was set at. I would say if someone needs to go, you're always welcome to go. I know one counselor's on, at least one of us is on a timeline. I forget what my next meeting is. I should probably check. We could always move referral. I'll also note that there was a large amount of correspondence from the community and intention and concern from them as well, just to make that decision. So a referral could happen at any time. If we want to do it, I could always see if our schedulers next time just book a 3-hour block if we're going to be a little bit longer. It's all right. I need a larger sheet of paper for my speakers list next time. Okay, so that procedural question has been dealt with. Councillor Frank.
Thank you, yes, and I will speak to the item at hand. So I won't be supporting this, as I'm sure is a shock to nobody, as I already have the information that is being requested by this motion, so I find it redundant. And I already feel fully transparent on this process to the community, to myself, to my residents. I do see this as putting a huge target on the back of cycling infrastructure. The timelines and estimated funding has already been approved through the MMP, and we already have all that information. And I already did that fiscal responsibility in evaluating it when I evaluated the estimated costs. I also want to highlight a few numbers in case other folks don't have this information in front of them. So the last 5 years, we've spent about $11 million on-road cycling lanes, of which about 42% come from federal and provincial sources, so almost half. On road projects, we've spent $273 million, and with only 20% of that coming from federal and provincial sources. So if we are looking for any savings in regards to transportation, road projects are clearly financially much more of a burden on our capital costs, and we receive significantly less federal and provincial contributions. As was cited, the estimated cost through the next 25 years of cycling infrastructure and other transportation infrastructure is between 180 to 200 million for cycling. And that's split though between on-road and parks pathways. So that's not only on-road cycling, that is also TVP improvements and other pathway improvements. So based on that number, I already understand the estimated costs. Additionally, I asked for annual maintenance cost, which is requested in this, and I was able to get it right away from staff. And based on 2024 actuals, the maintenance of on-road bike lanes was about $1 million. The annual maintenance cost for roads was $23 million. So again, if we are looking for savings, we do see that there is a much more heavy burden for car infrastructure. In general, I've said it many times at council, and it remains fact, the most affordable way to get around the city is by walking, biking, and then transit. And if we are trying to actually focus on affordability for Londoners, we need to provide every opportunity for safe transportation options. And if this is an issue about affordability, we need to focus on providing the most cost-effective choices. And a lot of the cycling infrastructure network is about providing complete streets on busy roads like Southdale, Sunningdale, places where we have cyclists who are with car traffic and are at high likelihood that they might be hit and potentially killed. So I'm very interested in creating an affordable city, as I know many councillors are, and I think that we need to offer safe bike routes for people to get around the city so that they aren't reliant on buying second or third cars. It costs about $10,000 a year to own a car, and I don't want to force Londoners to spend $10,000 a year buying more cars for their households. I don't think that's very affordable. So I won't be supporting this. I don't see the value in it. I see it as a huge target on cycling infrastructure, and I wouldn't support it at budget time anyway. So appreciate the opportunity to discuss it.
Thank you, Councillor Roman.
Thank you. Mine was a procedural question. I'll wait for the rest of the debate.
Thank you, Councillor Trousseau.
Thank you. And through the chair, once again, I want to really thank Councillor Frank for articulating what I wanted to say so well. I also want to thank you for doing the extra homework. A point I was going to raise to staff, maybe I'll just, And I don't have to because you've already done it. These are things that we could just pick up the phone and call staff and get simple answers to. And I think putting this in the form of a motion and going, I think we're stirring up an unnecessary controversy here, given the extensive nature of what we've been through with the Mobility Master Plan consultation process. So I appreciate the ruling from the chair, but I'm going to be voting no on every aspect of this. And I would suggest once again, if you have questions about something, ask. Whether it's the LEDC or our active transportation staff, we can get answers to questions. So I'll be voting no on this and anything else associated with this letter from the counselor. We spent so much time on this. And again, thank you, Councilor Frank. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Looking for further speakers, I'll also note in eScribe, it will read, we'll do two separate votes, one on receiving the correspondence and one on the motion itself. Further speakers, Councilor Hopkins, no.
Sure, happy to make a comment, and just want to thank Councillor Frank for doing the homework and giving us the information here at committee. I really do appreciate it. I know we can all follow up with staff, but I appreciate your due diligence on this. I won't be supporting it. Maybe just adding to Councillor Frank's comments, my concerns really revolve around the funding that's already available for us, the agreements that are already in place. I am not at all willing to jeopardize any of that. I think that would probably be my main reason for not supporting the motion. And maybe just ending off, we are a growing city, we are a big city, we need to improve different ways of moving around the city. We must do that in a safe manner. And to do that, we need to invest in these projects and to support them. And again, the importance of being able, the affordability for all of us to move around should be there. So I am not at all supportive of this motion going forward.
Thank you. Further speakers on this item? Councillor Cuddy. And I'm doing first before I do second, so I do acknowledge Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, I also won't be supporting this motion. And I do appreciate what Councillor Stevenson has done putting this together in order to save costs, but you know, cycling isn't just for transportation, it's also for safety. And people are going to continue to cycle and use our roadways, whether or not there's a bike path there for them to use or not. And we have to consider the safety of everyone in the city, not those just using cars and other means of transportation, including pedestrian, but cyclists. And we've had a fatality in my ward just recently, a year ago, and we've had one in Councillor McAllister's ward last year. And I don't think that reducing the number of paths and cycle paths is going to improve our safety. It's only going to cause more risk and more harm to those using it. And as I said earlier, you know, people aren't going to stop cycling. They're going to continue. They just have to do it safely. So I do appreciate Councillor Frank bringing the information forward. I didn't realize all of that, and thank you for that information. And again, I won't be supporting this now, and I won't support it at council. Thank you.
Thank you. Further speakers before Councillor Stevenson? Councillor Purple.
Thank you, and I was considering to supporting this because there was one part that actually I wasn't aware of and I didn't have that information, but it was actually answered on the floor a couple of minutes ago. So I will not be supporting it either, but I just want to let you know that I do think that we have opportunities, even though we approved the mobility master plan, I still truly believe that there are some opportunities to make, for example, TVP, the hub, the spine, et cetera. But bottom line is strictly to this. I will not be supporting it. Having said that, do I think we have opportunities to improve it? Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McAllister.
Thank you. I know I snuck in there before the second round. Appreciate you recognizing me and through the chair. And I appreciate Councillor Frank, all the information just provided. And one of the things I just wanted to highlight, which I have this conversation repeatedly with residents about, is much of the cycling infrastructure. There was a large federal component to that. I think a lot of the time people will pick on the cycling lanes. I know it's a very visible thing on our streets. I personally see a lot of value in it in terms of the safety it provides the cyclists. But a lot of the time people incorrectly state that that is entirely on the tax base, or the property tax base, I should say. There were other levels of government involved. We saw a lot of that infrastructure built up over the last few years, but that was a commitment from other levels of government to improve that infrastructure. And I think it's a valuable lesson in terms of hopefully we can capitalize on that with other projects to get that buy-in to build out our city, to allow people many different forms of transit around town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van Meerbergen.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll be supporting this motion. I mean, to get this type of information back is only prudent in the middle of a budget cycle. Makes complete sense. When you listen to some of the previous rhetoric, trying to make the point that roads and cars cost more than bikes, you really got to give your head a shake. I mean, the road system is used by everybody. The bike lane system, I think we can all agree, is less than underutilized. Unless we want to put London into a complete depression by shutting down the road system because it costs more, it borders on the nonsensical when you hear some of these arguments. We need a better road system.
Okay, Councillor Van Meerbergen, I got points of personal privilege being raised in multiple. Paul, you need to stop just a second.
And so
Councillor.
I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
A question to IT next time. Do you have the ability to stop a speaker online? Okay, I see a no. So if there is points of order and a councilor's not speaking or not halting online, I will continue to try and be louder over top. Councillor Van Meerbergen said his comments have concluded. I will still note that I had several concerns being raised of the words being chosen and the implications raised within chambers. Councillor Frank?
Thank you. So I'd like to state my point of privilege. One, these arguments are not nonsensical. So I'd appreciate an apology from the councillor for using that language. And two, we can't all agree. So I don't appreciate when the councillor says we can all agree on a certain thing. He can state his opinion, but he does not speak on behalf of all of us, including myself.
Councillor Van Meerbergen, Councillor Frank, you've heard their concerns, and they are requesting a retraction / apology of nonsensical. Councillor Van Meerbergen?
I would say that request is unnecessary. Like the other councillor, I too engage in rhetoric. She engages in rhetoric all the time. To make these equivalencies between the bike system and the road system.
Councillor Van Meerbergen, just a second. I might have to seek advice how to deal with a point of privilege on a point of privilege while someone's still answering. Councillor Frank, your point of privilege?
Thank you, yes. I do not engage in rhetoric. I share my feelings and opinions, and I do it without trying to offend anyone. And in my comments today, I did not notice if I was offending anyone. If anyone felt that way, they can more than willingly declare a point of privilege, and I would apologize. And again, I don't mind the counselor sharing his perspectives, but calling my comments nonsensical is offensive, and I would appreciate an apology.
Okay, Councillor Van Merbringen, the request stands from the Councillor Frank for a retraction and apology of nonsensical. I would need your comments specific on that in the form of, as a councillor seeking an apology. If not, I will need to refer to the policy, councillor procedural bylaws.
If I may, Chair, I think if you look at the record, do I have permission to speak?
You do, to the apology and the nonsensical.
Right. So that's my point. If you check the record, you'll see that I stated borders the nonsensical. I did not state the name of anybody, and I'll leave it at that.
I think once again, a councillor's restating that it borders the nonsensical, that no one specifically was nonsensical. Councillor Frank.
For the, how do I word it? In the interest of saving time for this committee, I will retract my request for an apology, but I would hope that other members of council would see fit to choose their words wisely.
Thank you. We'll deal with that matter as being disposed of.
Can I raise a point of order?
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to find my speakers list and wondering whose timer was on my clock. A point of order, Councillor McAllister.
Yeah, point of order to the answer that was given from IT, and this is, I guess, to the clerks, but I do think that the chair should have the ability to mute people online. They shouldn't, because they're online, have the ability to speak over everyone.
Thank you. The clerk's going to speak to it, and hopefully it will be disposed of.
Thank you, Budget Chair. When items come up very, very quickly, sometimes it takes us a second to react. We do have the ability as host or co-host to mute. I would note that once we have done that, then in order for that individual to regain the ability to speak, we will need to prompt that within Zoom. So it's just a matter of timing, but your comment is noted.
Thank you. I'll deal with that as disposed of. Looking to see if there's any first speakers. I do see Councillor Trousow's hand. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, if I have any time, I just wanted to make one comment in the form of a substantive suggestion. And that is, when we improve the safety of cycling, when we improve our cycling network, when we make it easier for...
Okay, Councillor Trousow, I've paused your time. Point of order, Councillor Stevenson.
This isn't about the safety of cycling lanes, it's about getting information.
I would rule that it is in order because information on safety lane, cycling lanes does impact cyclist safety, potentially of what comes back.
Thank you. I just want to, I'll make this very brief then. We're not taking anything away from motorists when we improve the cycling lane. And I think that that's a very unfortunate myth that I'm hearing all too often, that it's a zero-sum game and there's just a pie. And I just want to put this to rest. You're not taking anything away from motorists by making cycling safer. And that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, I have no further speakers on my list. I don't see any online. Councillor Rahman, is there anybody else for the speakers list? Just, I need to get the clerk prepped. Councillor Rahman, you have not spoken actually to the motion yet. Please proceed. You have your full time.
Thank you, and through you, and much appreciated. So I appreciate the fact that we are discussing this here today, although I would like to have seen us have a more fulsome discussion in the future on the many letters that we received and the feedback that we received. So I have two thoughts on this. One, I agree with my colleagues that cycling investments are important and we need to be making them. And so that, I think, is an important thing to state right off the bat. But I will say, asking for more information, I think, is key as well. And so I'm struggling with this as well because I've recently had some of these discussions around reducing a lane in my ward in an area where cycling lanes have been proposed. And there needs to be an opportunity for a fulsome discussion about that. And so, but the timeline in which I was informed of this doesn't allow me an ample enough time to engage with my community on it. So I'm trying to balance the need to know about things that have great impact on a very fast-paced growing area, the Northwest, of which we just considered also some changes to the urban growth boundary to further increase density in this area, and reduction of a lane, of which is significant in my ward, so that bike lanes can be added. So I'm, again, of two minds. I want to see us do cycling improvements and other roadway improvements where they make sense, with ample consideration and consultation with the community. But I also want to be able to be given the time to evaluate those projects and have those discussions. So again, like, I just think the wording of this is challenging for me. I also don't see it as entirely, although it relates to the mostly to the capital costs and not the operating budget. I'm still struggling with this one a little bit. I'm going to bring my concerns to committee, a standing committee, but I understand why this may be here.
Thank you. I don't see any further speakers online. Checking in chambers, calling the question that, apologies, Councillor Stevenson. Also an excellent question. You've used 1 minute and 50 seconds.
Okay, thank you. So just a few things too. I didn't call a point of personal privilege, but there's a lot of comments that say that, you know, they've done their due diligence, and thanks to one councillor for doing their due diligence, somehow implies that maybe I didn't. And I want us to watch that. The diversity of opinion and thought is not something that I'm finding is here enough as much as I would like to see it. I also did my due diligence. Current annual maintenance is $1.6 million, $12,000 a kilometer. Winter portion of that is $1.2 million at $9,000 a kilometer. Removing protected cycling lanes cost is estimated at $350,000 to $400,000 per kilometer. What we're talking about here is future. So if we've invested ballpark $50 million in cycling lanes and we have $1.6 million in annual maintenance, if we're going to do an additional $200 million, is it reasonable to say that we would be multiplying $1.6 million by 5 as an estimated annual maintenance that we would be committed to going forward?
Madam Chair, if you wish, I can answer that. The $200 million that's cited in the Mobility Master Plan includes half of it fully in non-road cycling infrastructure and some of it in boulevard cycling infrastructure. Those are not maintained in the winter, so no, it would not be a factor of 5.
Okay, thank you, and that part is helpful. But this is the conversation is really about doing things eyes wide open, right? although I brought it up as budget in that there's the opportunity for cost savings, what we've done so far today is less
I'm
than.
just going to caution with eyes wide open to make sure that we're not impugning other members of council who did believe that information.
Yeah, no, sorry, I don't mean that. What I'm saying is cycling lanes are something that people are talking about. And the province is you know, saying that the public is questioning it. I just want us to have a really open, honest, and again, not to say we're being dishonest, but I want to I want to engage with the public on this. Let's have the conversation and get the public's buy-in on this, and then possibly find some savings in terms of cycling the transit lights, whatever you call them, the cycling lights that tell people to go. People are asking questions about that. We didn't get into the detail, I don't believe, in the master mobility plan. Are there any savings in here that we could find that would make the public happier and save us some money? So it really is, this is about information. It's about providing information to the public so that they're better informed and we're better informed. Yes, we can ask questions individually, but I think it's great for the public to understand what the ongoing costs will be, what the timeline of this is going to be, when we agree to
30 seconds.
the ongoing maintenance costs, we can't change them without taking out the protected cycling lanes because it's mandated by the province for safety standards. So again, it's do we want to engage with the public on a difficult conversation and have that so that the conversation is clear and we're not avoiding it. It's going to come up. It's a question of how we're going to do it. So I'm just asking for the information so that we can talk about it openly in the public.
Thank you. I'll recognize Councillor Frank for a moment. Councillor Stevenson, that was your full 5 minutes. Realizing I don't want to get into too much cross debate, just looking to dispose of this item as well. If it's something, the burning question or comment, is that a no?
I was just going to be very quick and say that I felt that we have already deeply engaged the community in asking them about cycling infrastructure through the Master Mobility Plan, and I've already had this discussion so many times. So I do not need this information.
Thank you. Further comments online? I don't see any hands. In chambers? In chambers? So we're going to call these separate. One's going to be to receive all the letters. The first vote that is up is that Civic Administration be directed to report back to a future meeting of the Budget Committee with a list of all approved future cycling lane projects, their location, timeline, budgeted capital costs, sourcing of funding, and estimated annual maintenance cost. Calling that question now.
So, Chair, the first is for correspondence, right?
Nope. The first is the motion.
Is the main motion.
Yeah.
Closing the vote, motion fails 4-10.
At this point, looking to see if there would be a motion to receive the correspondence from the councillor and the correspondence that was sent in from residents. Councillor Frank? Okay, Councillor Frank is moving receipt of the correspondence from Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Ferrer is the second. Seeing no hands up, calling the question.
Closing the vote, motion carries 14-0.
Thank you. There's no deferred matters, additional business. There's no confidential items. I'll note that I did send a note to Ms. Hunt to ideally update that scheduler to be 3-hour time block instead of 2, just to help with our scheduling purposes in our calendar. Mr. Murray stated we're back here mid-June. So if you have things that you would like to work on or flesh out for information with him and his team are available, and we'll see you back in June, and we'll have those timelines, stuff we can help schedule our ward meetings with the city pop-ups. I think that does it for today. Motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Ferrer, seconded by Councillor Cadia. Hail and vote of all in favor.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.